Hey, this is TJ. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to try to answer a question that I get every once in a while. Which is the better hardware granular synthesizer? Is it the one within the Waldorf Iridium or the more specialized granular synthesizer that's within the Tasty Chips Electronics GR-1? So this is the two. All right, now there's no real one answer to which one is the better granular synthesizer for a number of reasons, because they're actually very, very different. The Waldorf Iridium is like a kitchen sink synthesizer. The granular synthesizer within it is really only actually half of one of the 5 synth engines that comes with the Iridium. It's half of the particle engine. The other half of the particle engine is sampling. And then you have all the other engines that come in with the Iridium. The Tasty Chip Electronics GR-1, well, this is a very, very specialized granular synthesizer. And it has very specialized granular synthesizer tests and has some interesting other features that the Iridium doesn't have. At the same time, the Iridium, with all the power that it has, can do a lot more modulations than you can do with the GR-1. So there's a lot of differences here. And not to mention the fact that the Iridium is over twice the cost of the GR-1. So yeah, there's a lot of differences. I'm going to try to get through most of them. The main ones I think that are important help you make a good decision if you're looking at both of these. So let's get started. All right, let's talk about a little bit of basics of granular synthesis. If you're not familiar with granular synthesis, you might be asking the question, what the heck is it and how does it work? Well, granular synthesis is 100% dependent on samples. Now, unlike conventional samples where it'll play at the beginning of the sample once you trigger it and play through the end, and it might have a loop point in the middle, and then play the end after you release the trigger or the key, say, on your keyboard. Granular synthesis works where it takes little bits of that sample at different points in time in the sample, and it'll play it at different points in time. And it may play it in all kinds of different directions depending on how you manipulate it. It'll spread it out in the stereo field in different ways. And that is the magic of granular synthesis, because it gives it a very, often cloudy kind of sound sometimes, and or it gives it a kind of a mush in a way, and or it can give it an interesting level of definition that you can't get with regular samples. But it is 100% dependent on the samples that you put into it, and that doesn't necessarily mean garbage in, garbage out. In fact, sometimes if you put some garbage into it and you work with it, you can get some really cool samples that will turn into great granular synthesis. For example, I created for both these synthesizers a very simple sample.
Wheat, oats, rice, corn.
On the Iridium,
wheat, oats, rice, corn.
And on the GR-1. So what we're going to do with that sample is I'm going to show you how you can manipulate it within the Iridium and within the GR-1. There's some differences between the two, some strengths and some weaknesses between both of them. So you can decide for yourself, with your use case, which is best for you. Now, with this video, in order to get it completed, I'm just going to show you it through the camera mic, just the basic sample edits, but I will give you some high quality audio along the way, some examples of both the Iridium and the GR-1 with some real world type sounds. Now, reading the stats between the two, you might think, well, the GR-1 is obviously the better machine in terms of granular synthesis. Why would you think that? Well, because the maximum amount of grains at one time that you can do with the Iridium, and this also applies for the Waldorf Quantum, by the way, the maximum amount that you can do is 8 grains at a time. With the GR-1, you can do 128 grains at a time. That's 16 times what you can do with the Waldorf Iridium. And you might think, well, game over, right? Well, I don't actually think so, because the Iridium has so many other features available to it and much more capabilities in terms of modulations that you can do a lot more with it. In other words, you have the slots within the Iridium. There's 40 slots in there to do different modulations. You have the 2 different filters and multiple types of filters that you can manipulate it with. You have a lot more effects that you can actually add onto it. So really, really much more powerful in terms of what you can do with those 8 grains. With the GR-1, you have the 128 grains. And the one thing I've noticed with this particular synthesizer is that it has a much more defined quality with the grains. It's really hard to describe, but they really did a nice job in terms of the algorithm that they used to create them. And it has a much more defined quality than I've heard with other granular synthesis, not only with the Iridium, but other, say, software types. But the manipulation of that is somewhat limited. It only has one envelope, and that's for amplitude, for the volume. It only has 2 LFOs. It has only one filter. The filter sounds nice, but there is only one filter. It has a limited amount of effects. And the menu system, the user interface, isn't quite as fast and/or friendly as it is with the Iridium. So there's quite a bit of difference there. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the GR1's user interface is bad. It's not. It actually really works very, very well. It's just not quite as fast as the touchscreen that you have with the Iridium. There's no touchscreen here. Now, let's dive in and see the differences of what we can do with this given sample. Dive right in. Here we go. Take a closer look. All right, first with the Iridium. Here's the basic sample again.
Wheat, oats, rice, corn.
Brilliant. Let's put it into the granular engine. All right. Now, first thing you'll see here is it gives you the default of 4 grains. So I'm going to max this out all the way up to the 8 grains just to try to make it a fair fight in terms of that. Okay. And the first thing we need to do is we need to move the travel so it moves through those different grains. Okay. Here. Oh, we need to give it a little bit more.
Oats, rice.
Okay, that's how I feel in the morning. All right, we can change the position.
Oats,
Okay. We can change the length of the grains.
oats, rice.
Okay, it's just like breakfast. And we can change the gate. Okay, and one thing you cannot do with the GR1 is this has a cool jitter effect. You can see it bouncing around like that.
Oats, rice.
Okay, now each one of these given parameters, you'll see a little mod here. See that? Each one that has the mod on there has the ability to send that to a given source for modulation. And this is where the Iridium really shines in that, I could send that to either one of the 5 LFOs that are here. Excuse me, the 5 envelopes that are here, the 5 LFOs that are here. So you have the ability to do a lot of manipulation here. Let's say, for example, I want to take the position. All right, and I take that, I hit the modulations, and I want to, use an LFO here. So I'll give it a little bit of amount. All right, close that out. Okay, slow the speed down a little bit.
Oats, rice.
All right, speed it up just again, a little bit here.
Oats, 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 rice, corn, corn.
Corny. That's funny. All right. And then you have the chance to do all that here within the Iridium. So that's some of the bigger power within the Iridium over the GR1. The other bigger power of it is that, well, you have actually 3 separate oscillators. So you can have 3 different granular synth engines going on at the same time. Very cool. The other thing that you can do is that you have 2 individual filters with multiple different filter types. So that's a lot more powerful than what you get with the GR1. So also the effects, there's much more effects in here. You have 5 effect slots. So the overall package, with the Iridium gives you a lot more power than what you can get with the GR1. All right, let's go deep on the GR1 here, and I'll show you some of the strengths that it has over what you might see with the Iridium. All right, the big money here with the GR1 is the grain density, okay? So let's play this sample here. I'm going to add a little bit of scanning. Okay, and I'll play it. Now I have to add some density.
corn, wheat, oats,
And then I add some grain size.
corn, wheat, oats, rice,
Then I'll add the spray.
wheat, oats.
All right, and then the panning spray. You might not hear that as well on the camera mic, but we'll see how it sounds here. And I'm going to max the density here. There's a full 128 of grains. Right, so those are the basic parameters here with the GR-1. You also have the ability to change the tilting and the size and the curve. So if I change the tilt so it plays more of the end of the grains than the beginning of the grains, it gives more of a triangular wave here, or the actual curve of both ends. So let's hear how that sounds. So it's a little bit more powerful than what you can get with the Iridium. The Iridium does have the attack and decay, so you can change that a little bit, but not quite as in depth as the way you can change it with the 3 parameters here on the GR-1. Now with the GR-1, you have 2 LFOs, okay? And then you have one single effect that you can add to it. And you have one filter, okay? You only have one envelope, and that is here, okay? So that envelope is an attack, decay, sustain, release envelope, ADSR, and that is only on the amplitude, the volume as it plays. So that's one with a long release that you'll see here. So it gives you some ability to make some changes. Let's deep dive a little bit more into the user interface so I can show you a couple other things here. Okay, this is the actual modulation matrix. Now with the Iridium, you have the 40 slots, so that's a lot of modulation slots. Here, you don't have nearly as many. Let's see, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 slots. Not quite as many ability to manipulate. Some of them aren't even available, say, for example, to aftertouch and velocity, such as the size, the tilt, the curve. Okay, but you can change the position, the spray, the size, the density, and the amp. Okay, with LFO1 and LFO2. You can also do it with CV, so that's really cool to integrate it with your modular setup. So there is some, ability to make changes here, make manipulations. It's just not quite as in-depth as it is with Iridium. Again, this is not a touch screen like it is on the Iridium. You have to scroll through here. Scrolling up. This allows you to, sync the LFOs. Very cool function. These are the effects types. You can add a delay, distortion, a reducer, like a bit reducer, and reverb. Go up here. You can sync the scanning. Okay, so these are all the basic parameters here. One thing that the GR-1 does that the Iridium doesn't do, it is 4-part multi-timbral. Okay, so you can actually, go here, you can actually select 4 different channels, okay, and play it on 4 different parts. Very, very cool. With the Iridium, you only have the 2 layers that are 2-part multi-timbral. Now, for this section of the video, I'm going to use a different sample, a percussion wave. Let's have a listen to it. All right, now in a moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start manipulating that within the Iridium, and I'm going to take the same wave within the GR-1, and I'm going to start manipulating that. The audio that you're going to hear will be high quality audio, not the camera mic. I'm not going to do any talking, so just follow along with what I'm doing with things that I had mentioned before, so you can get an idea of the differences in the way that you can manipulate in the Iridium as well as the GR-1, the same sample. All right, let's first try jamming this percussion wave on the Iridium. Ready? Here we go. All right, so first I got to change it into the granular engine. All right, now we're going to take that same sample with the GR-1. Slice it, dice it. Let's see what happens, huh? All right, what you just heard there is the same percussion sample played through and manipulated with the Iridium and the GR-1. Now, what I did with the Iridium is I duplicated it on all three of the oscillators to create a larger amount of grain type of effect to try to give it a little bit more closer to the 128 grains that are available on the GR-1. I also added a LFO to kind of sync them together. Okay, so to get the syncing effects with that, there were no effects in terms of delays or reverb or anything like that on here, and there's no filter that I had in that given example. Same is true with the GR-1. I didn't play with the filter at all, nor did I add any effects. The only parameters that I manipulated were the ones that have to do with the granular synth engine. Well, hey, that's it. If you're a big fan of granular synthesizers like I am, this will give you a better chance to know the differences between these two great ones. These are the Waldorf Iridium and the Tasty Chips Electronics GR-1, the two great granular gear gadgets. All right, so thanks for watching the video. Thanks so much for your support. Check out tjontheroad.com for more. Make sure you share the video and subscribe. I will see you next time.